Welcome to Candid Dialogue. Our whole goal for this show is to have real and open conversations with entertainers, athletes, entrepreneurs, and other influencers that are just trying to make it happen. During the conversation, we're going to discuss why they chose their path, the ups and downs that they had to go through, the influences that they've had growing up, and also what success looks like to them. I'm your host, William Cooksey, and hopefully you're going to enjoy this next episode of Candid Dialogue. Now let's get candid. We want to welcome everyone to another episode of Candid Dialogue. I'm your host, William Cooksey. Today we got a special guest, Mr. Kojack Fuller. Now when you hear me say his name, you probably instantly think about 28.9 Mr. Basketball, one of the best players to ever play in the state of Indiana. But when you watch this episode, you're going to quickly realize that his best asset was never putting the ball in the hoop. It was always that he was a great person. And now he's been able to take what he's learned over these years to give back to other people. Now we would like to welcome Mr. Kojack Fuller to the Candid Dialogue podcast.
Thank you,
Just
sir.
say thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you coming out today. We're really looking forward to hearing your story. You know, a lot of us growing up back in the day, we remember you on the court, remember you out there killing boys. But for every story, we only hear so much, you know, because back then there wasn't no social media.
Yeah.
So now we know everything that's going on with everybody in real time. But back when we was growing up, it wasn't that. We saw what we saw on TV.
Correct.
Or read what we read in the papers. But the reason why we wanted to have you on today is because you have a real story that we know is going to be able to benefit not just the kids, not just people who play ball, but everybody, because we're all living in the same type of situation right now. So we appreciate you for coming on today, brother.
Man, I appreciate you having me, man. You know, I love what you're doing. I watched Gary Brackett series. I watched the Jay Edwards, man. I was just like, man, this is different. You know, I'm not a real podcast fan, but man, I'm telling you, man, what you guys are doing, man, I love it, man. So I appreciate it, man. It's an honor, you know, to be here with you.
Man, that's
Absolutely.
real, man. Appreciate that, brother. So let's just go on and get into it. And like we said, we just going to have a conversation. That's why it's called Candid Dialogue. We go where you want to go, but we just want to be able to tell your story, how you want your story told. So we know growing up, like everybody, most young men that love sports wanted to be the best that they could be. So when did you know that you wanted to play basketball?
Man, actually, I played baseball, football, and basketball.
Okay.
You know, man, I was just an athlete, man. And basketball was just some pastime that I did mostly with my family. You know, my older brother, my older cousins, my uncles, all of them was athletes, man, and hoopers too, right? So my grandmother had a basketball goal on the back of her garage. That's where all the neighborhood came. You know, all the neighborhood kids came. And so, you know, basketball was just something that, you know, I just played. I didn't play any organized basketball, but I did baseball and football. And man, I excelled at it, man. Listen, man, I'm just gonna say, man, that, man, it had to be just a blessing, man, from God, man, to where I just excelled, man, in football and baseball. And so then I was like, man, somebody asked me to play on their basketball team, man, and I did, man. And like Biddy Ball League, man, and I destroyed that league, man. And they was like, wow, man, this kid can play. And so it still didn't hit. I was being competitive because I come from an era where, you know, my uncles and them, my older brothers, they wasn't giving me nothing. And my size, you know, prevented me from doing what they was doing and my age. But, you know, they didn't take it easy on me. So, man, listen, man, I just came from a competitive era, man. So basketball didn't come until like when I was like 9, 10.
Okay.
I played my first organized basketball.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why would you say you chose basketball over the other two?
Man, well, football, I was saying, you know, as I started getting older, and I'm playing all three, but then baseball, it wasn't as, you know, interesting to me, you know. But football was still, I had a good interest in football, man. But then, they got to hitting too hard. I'm saying, but I always had, my body compact, but I'm like, man, this ain't what's happening, but I still wanted to do it, but I started excelling in basketball, and it was just that I was loving to do it, man. And the challenge from basketball was unbelievable, man. And I think it was the challenge, and the competitiveness that just really pulled me on in, man. And so I just started playing basketball, definitely went to one sport in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so once you got to high school, you mentioned your size, they list you with 5'7".
Yeah.
And so
they give you a little bit.
They give you a little bit. But even back then, that's a small guard.
Oh,
now there's a lot of small guards that play. So you was kind of one of the very first small guards that was able to do what you was able to do. What would you attest that to? And I asked that because when Jay was here, he was talking about how he played 21, pickup ball. They didn't really have train, run around cones and all of that.
No,
so
sir.
What was your workout regimen to get to where you got?
And that's interesting, man, because, man, we just played, man.
Yeah.
And when I say on my grandmother's, garage, man, we played, man. I mean, from morning to night. And she had a light on the back of her garage. So, we was playing. And so, man, it was just, I never really, just isolated myself, worked on, cones and doing all of that, man. It was just, man, I played.
Mm-hmm.
And I played with individuals, man, that challenged me, didn't give me anything. So, my size really didn't, that didn't come into play for me. I never thought about my size.
Mm-hmm.
It was always, man, I'm trying to win, man, and I can't beat them. How do I learn how to beat them, man? And so, it just drove me to spend more time playing, and to start listening to what the older cats was saying to me, And, man, that's what happened, man, because it had nothing to do with my size. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So for those of you who hadn't heard your basketball story, tell us what type of success you had in high school.
Man, I tell you what, man, the success, man, was unbelievable, man. Playing in the second largest high school gym in the world, the Wigwam. People know about that. They used to come from all across the country just to see the gym, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing, man. And I know growing up, I'm Troy Lewis and them. So while they're playing, me and my brother, we inside the house too. We in the room and we got the hangers. We playing full court. Listen, he let me be Troy Lewis and he was James Blackman because that was a big time rival, Troy Lewis and James Blackman back then, man. So we're listening to it on the radio and we live right down the street from the Wigwam at that moment, man. That's how big it was, man. And so it was always like a dream, man. I want to play in this place. You know what I'm saying? So, man, that type of environment, man, was electrifying, man. I'm telling you, even the little college ball that I played, it just can't compare to that environment, man. Which in turn, became my addiction, though. Because I really wasn't prepared for it.
Okay.
That type of success like that, man. So, man, it was just something. And for me to be able to experience Mr. Basketball, which is a whole nother story because I didn't just get Mr. Basketball outright.
Right.
They didn't just give it to me, which Mr. Basketball is really supposed to be the best basketball player in Indiana. And so, when they was coming up for, to pick who it was going to be, I had already knew that, man, they wasn't going to give it to me because I knew I had a little bit more baggage, than some of the other candidates. And as a matter of fact, my hometown rival, Randy Zachary, me and him was up for Mr. Basketball, And so I never heard of Sharon Wilkerson until going into my senior year. And now this individual from Jeffersonville come up and he's in the running. And he's supposed to be heading to IU. So I'm like, man, who is this dude? I don't even know him, And so I just kind of knew, man, I had already positioned myself mentally, emotionally that, I wasn't going to accept, I wasn't going to get Mr. Basketball. And that's what happened. Yeah, that's what happened. And as a matter of fact, man, I had already conditioned myself that I wasn't going to get it to where it didn't affect me as bad as it did my mother. And then a lot of the community, because, a lot of the people, that watch me play, they was like, man, listen, man, statistically, when you look at the stats, man, this kid, he should get Mr. Basketball. But that time, it wasn't just based off of basketball skills. They had incorporated, life. And because I had my first child at 15, I had my second child at 16. So here it is, by the time I was a senior in high school, I had 3 kids, man, but I'm playing good basketball.
Right.
So, in turn, I'm thinking that, Mr. Basketball was going to be based off of who was going to be a better representative of Indiana.
The image. You didn't fit the image.
The image.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but that was the thing to where at first I didn't fit the image, but once we went through all of the process, playing the Kentucky All-Star, they thought I was going to come in with a type of attitude, arrogance, like, oh, man, y'all didn't give me Mr. Basketball. And so I had made up in my mind, I'm going to represent Indiana no matter where I go. So I just want to play basketball, man. And so they found out that the book wasn't, that the cover wasn't, what was in the book, and so then after, they went through, Sharon went through what he went through, and he quit the team. And right then they came in after the game and they said, we're not going to have a Mr. Basketball for 1993.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they said that. I'm like, I'm fine with that, And so, and it's big because when we played in Kentucky, they was already saying that our chances of beating Kentucky All-Stars was the Minnesota Timberwolves' chances of winning the NBA championship back in 93. Now, you already know Minnesota Timberwolves was horrible back then.
Yeah, they was spanking then. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So when we came back to Indianapolis, we beat them worse than they beat us. Okay. And we didn't have Sharon Wilkerson. And so, man, I'm at the neighborhood, the Geter Center, as my brother, we was talking before the show. And this was one of the places where, individuals went if you really wanted to get better and get groomed by the, by the older cats. You would go to this place, this local place, community center called the Geter Center, right? And I'm down there playing, man, and I get a call. And it's the head man, for the IHSAA. And he was like, hey, we named you Mr. Basketball. How do you feel about that? And I was like, man, I'm good. I don't want it. And I hung up. Yeah. I mean, because it's like, man, I'm good. I don't want it. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, how do you feel? I was like, am I supposed to feel a certain way? Because I don't. Now, had I got it in the beginning, I would have had a different feeling behind it, man. But so then the coach called me, that coached us, man, which I really liked him, Coach Hamill, man, from Lafayette. And he kept it real. He was like, listen, we judge the book by its cover, know. And he was honest about that, man. And so what I did was I took Mr. Basketball because of my mother, man. My mother said, listen, babe, when they open up these history books.
You always there.
Come on, man. So, I mean, in my mindset as a young man, I wasn't thinking like that.
Right.
I'm like, man, I don't want it, man. Y'all did what y'all did. You judge. And I really wasn't exposed to how we live in this. That was my first real exposure to this image-driven society that we live in, and I got it firsthand, man. And it kind of played this role in some of the things that how I, my outlook on life, different things like that. But I took it because of my mother, man, that statement. Years down the line, when they look in there, they're going to see your name in there, man, to where now I'm glad I did because I didn't receive anything from the Mr. Basketball except for the jersey.
Okay.
But it was a lot of different, awards that came along with that. But I didn't receive anything. But now, like my grandkids, they can be like, man, yeah, my yay, which is grandfather in Chinese, my yay, man, he was Mr. Basketball. So, Man, had not been for my mom, man, I wouldn't even accepted it.
Wow. And it's good because it wasn't like they gave it to you and you didn't deserve it. What you was 28.9, I think that's almost 30, right?
Right.
And like you really put in the work to get it. But I definitely can understand why it's like, man, this is I'm the bridesmaid, so to speak. Y'all didn't really want to give it to me. And you saying that is really important because I think young people think that basketball is just, oh, as long as I hoop good,
Right.
everything is fine.
Right.
But it's much, much more to that because, and that's why we want you to tell your story because 28.9, Mr. Basketball, what type of letters were you getting from colleges throughout your high school?
Man, that's something, man. I was getting letters from every college, man, except for two. That was Duke and North Carolina. You know,
Okay.
they just didn't want me.
Yeah.
And I don't knock them for that.
Yeah.
But, man, every other major college, man, was, I was getting letters, man. I could probably fill up this whole room, man, the walls with the letters that I was receiving, man. But I didn't understand that. I'm just playing basketball, man. I don't have nobody in my ear trying to prep me and prepare me for the next level. I'm just thinking, hey, I'm going to play basketball. And so, man, that was just something totally different, man. This is one thing when it comes to young people, when it comes to basketball, man, or any sport at that, man, I really think that it's a transitional period that we as older people, as parents, as grandparents, as mentors, whatever, man, we need to help them make that transition because it's huge, man. A kid going from kindergarten to first grade, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
From elementary to middle school, that's huge, man. And what we do is we put certain clothes, give them certain clothes to wear, and we say, hey, look, go ahead and we celebrate them. Hey, you're doing a great job. You going from elementary to middle school to high school, my baby doing it. But mentally and emotionally, that's a transition that if they're not prepared for, man, wherever they're going can really consume them, man. And so that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah, just not being prepared for this type of success and transition. How do I use this success and this success don't use me? See, I wasn't taught that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't taught that, man. So.
And so you end up, what college you go to and how did it work out for you in college?
Well, I started out going to Vincennes University because, it was just a lot of things I didn't know.
Yeah.
I waited and took my SAT, only took it one time and I took it when I was a senior. Just wasn't equipped and didn't know, hey, look, you need to take this immediately. You come into high school, at least sophomore, you need to take it as many times as possible. So I didn't know that, 10 points away. And so I had to go to junior college. So I went to Vincennes, man, and I stayed there a year, man. And then I transferred and went to Southern University down in Baton Rouge, But by that time, down in Southern, I'm already running from legal issues.
Okay.
So the basketball career pretty much, man, after I left high school, man, it was pretty much over, because I thought basketball was who I was. So I was lost, man. No identity. I knew how to say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. I knew how to smile, man. But I had no identity, man. I thought basketball was who I was. And so I continued to try to seek, the admiration, the applause, the encouragement from basketball. I continued to run after that, man. And it just wasn't the same, and so now I'm kind of shook, like, what do I do now?
Right.
And so, I went to Vincennes, man, and played pretty good ball, though, but me and the coach, one thing was said when he come to the house, different thing was said once I get down there, come to the house, may even give me, $50 every time you come to the house. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, so as a youngster, I'm like, well, man, I'm going to be okay. I ain't going to have to worry about, sir. Get down there, I can't get $5 for something to eat, And And so, me and him, we just didn't gel, really good. But I'm playing good basketball though. And his secretary told me something. She said, Kojack, listen. She said, every college in the country is calling here, asking about you. But after they talk to him, they don't call back.
Wow.
She told me that, man. And I was like, wow. And it just didn't register then. Man, I'm young. I just didn't know, man. So one thing led to another. I left there. And that's when, the life of, okay, I'm still a father though. How do I provide? What do I do? Because I don't know what stability looked like from a man's point of view. My mom, hard worker, man. She worked 2 jobs minimum. So I see it from a woman's perspective, but as a man, how do I go out and live that life, man, and be, and bring that type of financial stability to the house or whatnot. I didn't see that. So most youngsters, I'm gonna do what most youngsters do. I'm gonna follow the crowd. So I did what everybody else was doing, man.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to start off gambling, then let me try to, sell some drugs and see, if I can do it that way. I didn't do it to take care of my kids. I did it because I was lost and I just
Right.
didn't have no identity. And I come from a place of being the man, on that level to where now it's like I ain't the man like that no more. So it's like now I'm seeking avenues. Where can I be the man at? And so I chose that avenue.
Mm. So would you say that the popularity and all of the fame that you had in high school was masking something else that you were dealing with from like in your childhood? Like you said, you growing up as a child, you had uncles and everything around you, but you also had a single mother. Your father wasn't around.
And man, my pops, he was in and out, man.
Okay.
It just wasn't no consistency, really.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It wasn't no consistency. And so it's something that you said that, man, because I use basketball as a defense mechanism.
Okay.
See, a lot of people didn't know that I was really trying to be good, really good at basketball because I didn't want other people knowing what was in the closet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if I become really good, people will address me and deal with me based off of what they see. And that's basketball. And that's exactly how most people did it. They addressed me and dealt with me based off of what I was able to do for them, the entertainment piece, which kept them at bay because I didn't want them to know some of the things that I had kids like this. And even the reason why I even started out with the mindset of having kids, at 12, just being inappropriately touched and taken advantage of like that, man. So as a 12-year-old young man, I'm trying to process this myself, and so now what I'm saying to myself at 12 is every young girl I come in contact with, I'm sleeping with them. Why? Because I'm not like this. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what I said or what I did to make, my cousin, come at me like this. I'm like, what did I do? So now his actions is on me. What did I do? So now I have to figure it out. And so at 12, man, I said, man, I'm gonna sleep with every young girl I come in contact with. And that's exactly what I started doing. So that's why I had my child at 15, second one at 16, third one by the time I was a senior in high school. But I was playing good basketball. And most people, they were so focused on what I did well to where they didn't even take into consideration, man, what's going on when you step off of this court?
Right.
What's going on with your life, man? You got 3 kids, man. What are some of the things I need to be putting in place? Thinking about the future in dealing with these kids. See, it wasn't none of that, man. It was just focusing in on basketball. And I used that to cover that up. And it wasn't hard because you have a lot of people that to tell you how to live, but very few. It's rare to get somebody that'll show you how to live. So if you show me how to live, that means you're going to have to come and link up with me arm in arm, and you're going to have to really engage in my life, and you're going to see you got to dress to be ready to get messy.
Right.
Get dirty, because it's a mess. So, to impact a life, man, you do that up close. You can influence a life from a distance, but impacting them, you got to do that up close, man. And so, really didn't have nobody to where they was like, man, I want to impact them, because this is one thing that I know. If you want to impact a life, man, you got to open your schedule up for inconveniences, and we could all be doing something,
Right.
man, I got a family, I need to be doing this. But to really help, man, you got to really open your life up for inconveniences, to where it goes outside of your schedule. And so basketball for me was just to keep people at bay.
Okay.
And individuals didn't even know that.
They didn't know what you was dealing with, because I can only imagine at 12 years old. And so hearing that, if there's anybody who is suffering right now from being inappropriately touched by someone that they respect, care about, love, or even if they don't know,
Right.
what would be your advice so that they don't suffer in silence by themselves?
Man, I would absolutely tell somebody.
Okay.
I mean, immediately, man. You know how, coming up, man, in our household, what's done in our household is
Stays in the household.
Staying here, man. That's not always true.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? Because sometimes it's the household that's doing the damage. You know what I'm saying? So, man, anybody that's being inappropriately touched, man, and I would really, 100% tell you to tell somebody. Because a lot of times what happens is the individual that's being taken advantage of, they go into protect mode. Well, I don't want this coming back on my mom and them. Or I don't want this coming back on my family. I don't want people looking at us. So they start to think about everybody but themselves.
Wow.
And so it's like, no, listen, that was my mindset. And I say that because of this, because when it came to me taking care of my kids, my mother would always tell me, look, Cole, get yourself together. Then your kids will be okay. But my mindset was, no, I'm good, mama. I just need to make sure they okay. And that was the wrong process. You know what I'm saying? Because when I went to prison, what happened to my kids? So it's like, no, getting yourself together, help you, then you can help somebody else.
Right.
And so even for an individual that's being inappropriately touched, man, taken advantage of, at that moment, man, the most important person is them.
Right.
You get help. It's not about you trying to help somebody else. It's about you helping yourself. And then once you get well and you get on that road to recovery, now you can help somebody else, because who else out there is being, being touched, being taken advantage of, that feel as if, man, this is my life and I can't see anything beyond that. And that's not the case.
Yeah. And you said something very important, that you felt like, what did I do wrong to make this person? No, you didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
That person is wrong.
Right.
So I can only imagine how a person would feel that way. And that's why I appreciate you so much for saying that, because I'm sure there's somebody right now is going through that.
Absolutely.
And they don't know how to even deal with what they're feeling. It's like, what's happening? Why is this happening? What did I do? But from what you're saying is, you didn't do anything wrong.
Nothing wrong.
That person is wrong.
That's right.
And if you're in this position, tell somebody.
Tell somebody.
And that is, man, appreciate you, brother, for saying that, because
Oh, my pleasure.
As you said, that affected you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Because, it led you to having kids. So when would you say that you spoke up and said something to somebody?
Man, I didn't speak up. Well, actually, I did.
Okay.
I told my mom immediately, and my grandmother.
Okay.
But, they wasn't there. So, what can they do? They asked me, no, I didn't do that. Okay. And so, it wasn't anything that they could really do. So now, at that point, what about me? What about my mental? What about my emotional? How do I deal with that? Okay, I get it. Thank y'all. You addressed it. But now, how do I continue on with life, having to experience this right here? How do I deal with it? And me not having those tools, man, it just led me down a destructive path, man. It
Mm.
did. And like I said, and nobody knew because and now that I understand we live in this image-driven society, they were so caught up on the image that they didn't even take into consideration that I didn't have no identity.
Mm.
Didn't know who I was. And so basketball was who I was. So this is why I put so much into basketball. That's why I would say, man, you really have to, pay attention to, young people. Why you do what you do? I ask them that all the time. Why you do what you do? Because I need to know your why. I need to know your drive. And if you listen to them, man, they'll tell you. Even without them just verbally just saying, man, this is what happened to me. If you listen to them, they'll tell you everything you need to know, man. And so we really need to be opening up our ears, man. And I like to say this, man, that I learned how to listen with my eyes, and see with my ears. Yeah. I like to listen with my eyes to where you don't have to say nothing, but because I pay attention to you, I hear what you're saying.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm paying attention to everything, your life. I'm paying attention to things that may have changed. And it's like, wait a minute, this changed about your life. What took place in your life that you stopped doing this and started doing this? You used to love to draw. You stopped drawing, and now you want to go and you want to hang out and play basketball with your friends. What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Something happened, and it don't always have to be something big, but we definitely have to know that there was some type of transition, some type of life-altering event that took place, that this individual changed from doing something that they loved into doing something that, it's like you never had this interest. See, that's red flags going off, So those are things that I just pay attention, man, now to young people because I just understand what it is, I can see through the smoke screen. I know when you sitting up here and because that was me smiling and dying on the inside.
Yeah.
That's why I say, I had the image. I knew how to, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, with a smile. And I'm dying on the inside, and you have no idea.
Well, and you are the second person that sat there when we talked to Jay. Similar story. Killing through high school.
Yep.
Jay, I'm getting 30, you getting 30. But after the game was over, it was that person that you were dealing with, that you were trying to fight against. But nobody didn't know. And I probably could confidently say some people didn't care because you were producing.
Oh, listen, absolutely. You already know the society we live in, man. If I can keep getting from you what I want from you, I don't care how you get it to me.
Yep.
Just get it to me. So I don't care if you have to climb Mount Everest to get me what I want, then do that. And so it's not the journey that people are more focused on. It's the reward or what I can receive from that, man. And so as long as I was still putting that ball in the hoop and I had people jumping out of their seats, high fiving and even the rivals, a lot of the Anderson Indians, and we're beating the crosstown rivals and they able to brag, Thanksgiving or Christmas, then they was okay. I had a lady that when I got out of prison, man, I was talking, went to this place and I was talking, right, just speaking at this little luncheon. And I told her, I told them, I was like, listen, after I made my mistake because I allowed the words of man to put me on a pedestal, to put me up here, man, to where I felt like, man, listen, I couldn't, man, I was there, And then when I made my mistake and I failed and I didn't have those words no more, man, my fall was great. And people had no idea, man, that I was so emotionally and mentally broken because I didn't have what I thought I needed for me to be here. And so when I told that woman that, man, a lot of the fans that used to clap, pat me on the back and say they love me, may even give me $5 here, I said, man, I received not one letter from them when I went to prison.
Mm.
You know, I didn't receive no visits from any of the fans and man, she came up to me afterward and she was crying and she was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know who she was, you know, and so she explained to me, she was like, I was that person that was upset with you because you made your mistake and I didn't write you. I didn't even pray for you. And she was like, man, I'm a woman of God and I didn't even pray for you because I was so disappointed in you. And I'm like, wow, you know. And I told her, listen, I accept your apology. But I was saying to myself how individuals can get so caught up in not getting what they want and not receiving, the feel good that they're wanting, man, to where at the expense of somebody having to, go to prison or somebody almost losing their life. And it's like, man, listen, I can care less about that. I struggle with the fact that you didn't continue to give me what I've been getting. It's like, wow, man, as a society, man, that's how we are. How often do kids, when they're done playing in high school and they go off to college and they don't have a lot of that crowd, a lot of that encouragement, how often do the support go with them?
Mm.
Through a letter, through $20 or $5, here you go. I know it ain't much, but you already know somebody in college, they need that.
Mm-hmm.
They need that little, hey, look, them ramen noodles, that'll get a nice little amount of ramen noodles. You get a little $5, $10, $15.
Right.
But I'm just saying that type of encouragement because that helps.
Right.
When a person getting down, guess what? I can pick that letter up that you wrote me 3 months ago in my down season and I read it and it picked me up. Yeah, see, that's just something that I was just sharing with you. That's how important a letter or a visit is in prison.
Right.
So if you get somebody that's not locked up physically, but they locked up emotionally and mentally, those type of things, man, can help them in the state of where they are.
And you know what? That's crazy you said that is because I think that transcends prison. That's just life. If you're trying to do anything in life, if you're an entrepreneur, the emotional roller coasters that you go through, and
Right.
you got to have those people that when you're down, that are there to be like, hey man, it's gonna be okay. Pick yourself back
Yes.
up. So then when you're up, you can be like, okay, man, I can get back up here and I can stay here, but I'm gonna be going down pretty
There's a
soon.
season.
So I got this support system right here, this support system right here. So what you're saying is so important because a lot of people don't know where to turn to when they're in their downs.
That's right.
Because as we was talking earlier, when you're winning, everybody's winning.
Everybody.
People who ain't did nothing for you, they cheering louder than you are.
Right.
Everybody's cheering. Then when you
Right.
losing, you look around, you be like, where'd everybody go?
Where they go.
And they just waiting for you to win again. But that does something to you mentally. So what would be your advice to a parent, a coach, a mentor, or anybody who's surrounded around a kid that is really successful, helping him to get to the next level, and then also let him know if you get to the next level and it don't turn out like you think it should, it's not the end of it. What would be your advice?
Ooh, man, listen, consistency is powerful on both ends.
Okay.
Positive and negative. Man, you got to be consistent, man. And consistently tell them, hey, listen, these are the things that I see. You did well, you do good. Hey, but these are some things that I see that you need to work on. We have to not just, magnify a person's strengths. You have to magnify their weaknesses as well. Because it's just like a saying, like in prison, you have individuals from the waist up, man, listen, they can be, in Mr. Olympia. But from the waist down, they don't work on their legs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's called like penitentiary built. I work on my strengths, on my stronger suits, on my stronger parts. But when it's time for me to work on where I'm weak because of the society that we live in, man, it's not okay to be weak. But see, this is why I'm so thankful that I went through what I went through because for me, and what I believe, man, I love Jesus Christ, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love him, man. And I just love the word of God to where when Paul said, for when I am weak, then am I strong. So God said, my power is made perfect in your weakness. So if I'm always strong, then I can't allow God to do what he need to do.
Mm.
So, being weak is it's not a vice, man. It's actually, man, it's a virtue. Because when I understand where I'm weak, man, now I know where change needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because awareness is the beginning of change. You ain't gonna change nothing you're not aware of.
That's true.
But when you become aware of something, and guess what? And now the responsibility is transferred back to me. When I realize, when I'm aware of what needs to be changed, then it's on me to do it. So this is what, when it come to young people, man, I push that, man. To where I want them to become aware of some things. And I tell them, man, not knowing something is a great place to start. Because we all start in a place of not knowing something, but it's a dangerous place to stay, especially when you need to know it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't continue to live your life not knowing what you need to know, man. And this is why anything that I've been through, anything that I know, man, I'm giving it. I'm giving it to them, man. And I'm giving it to them in a vehicle that they understand. In other words, it ain't, and if you want a young person to cut you off and just shut you down, tell them how you was raised. Oh, when I came up, this is how it went. And immediately you done lost them because they like, man, we ain't even in that age.
Right.
We dealing with something totally different. And what you did was you just made it about them, made it about yourself,
Right.
and not them. And so I like to give it to them, same message, but I like to give it to them in a vehicle that they understand. They understand the 28s, sitting on the rim, the 28 rims on see, they understand. So that's the vehicle that I'm using to give them the message that, man, listen, today is not your future.
Right.
Your mistakes don't define you, man. You can get up, you can bounce back, but now it's a system to doing that. You got to start planning for you to succeed. And so you can't do nothing on your own, man. I just let them know, listen, we gonna roll with you, man. I'm gonna walk with you, man. I just believe, man, what I've been through in my life, that it wasn't just for me. I've never seen a tree eat its own fruit. I've never seen an apple tree grow its apples for itself.
Right.
It's always for others. And so I look at my life and be like, man, it ain't just about me, man. What I've been through is not just for me, man. It's for others. And I know even what you doing, man, even with this podcast, man, you're not doing this for just you. Right. You're having people on for others, man. How can I affect lives, man, in a way to where people know how to fall, but everybody don't know how to get up?
Man, boy, you said it right there, because when we thought we were going to do this, we just didn't want to do what everybody else was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, how can we do this? It be entertaining, responsible, educational. That's what we wanted to do.
Right.
Because you can name 50 podcasts that all the same. So we was like, man, we want to bring on guests from many different genres,
Absolutely.
We've had real estate, we've talked sports, we've talked comedy, we've talked businessmen, and we're going to continue to do that because everybody's story is different, but a lot of them are the same, just in different ways.
Absolutely.
And so if a person watches this, they may not be an athlete, but they might want to be a doctor.
Right.
And they may be going through some of the stuff that you went through when you were young. They don't know how to get out of their own way because there's no one to talk to. So they could pull up this episode and say, dang, Kojack did this. Now, I might not do that.
Right.
I'm not going to go down that road, but I'm going to go down this road because I see what somebody who suffered from what I've suffered from went down that road and did. I'm going to do the opposite.
Absolutely.
Because I can only imagine that anger probably fueled you. Would you say anger fueled you, embarrassment, or what was the fuel behind?
You know what? And And it's amazing that you say that because I'm 49 years old, man,
Okay.
and I'm just now learning how to become aware of my feelings, how I felt, how things make me feel. Because when you're not able to process your feelings, then you remain stuck. And I'm thankful that I didn't remain stuck at 12, through that traumatic event that I went through, that, I was able to come out of that, man. But I'm gonna tell you one of the greatest feelings now that I think about it, and now that I understand, was I was conflicted. I'm like, I don't understand. Like, man, this is me. I don't understand. Why would you come at me like this? I'm like, I'm confused. Like, man, I don't know. I don't understand. And so I think that just opened the door to a whole lot of different emotions, man, that really control me. And when we really be honest, man, 99.9% of young people, every decision they make is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but one thing that we don't do is teach them how to deal with how they feel. How you feel is how you feel. You ain't wrong from that.
Right.
But we can't leave you there. So it's feel, deal, then heal. So now once you feel it and you're not wrong, now let's deal with it. See, that's the part that a lot of us don't want to do. We don't want to deal with how we feel. And it's like, if we don't, then what we're going to end up doing is we end up allowing that event and the feeling behind that really suffocate us, or we start to use it as a crutch. And that only gets you so far, because society don't care nothing about your daddy not being in your life. If you break the law, you go into prison.
Right.
So it's like, man, how do we help you deal with the things that you've dealt with in your life, and how to become aware of how you felt, to where now you can take your life back? And now when you talk about mental health, if I'm able to control my emotions and they not control me, mentally, I'm okay. I may deal with life and adversity because I'm not exempt, but the thing about it is I'm not succumbing to, a lot of the diagnosis that's coming, that's thrown up out here, because I'm just exhausted mentally, because I do so many different things and I'm exhausted. But if I don't know that I'm exhausted, I'll think I'm depressed. And so why? Because depression is a word that's thrown out here for anything. Man, I want to sleep. And it's like, man, I'm not depressed. I'm deprived of sleep. And so, man, to really help youngsters get to the point to where they understand how they feel, because a lot of their decision makings is based off emotions. So if we know that, then we're going to have to learn how to deal with these emotional youngsters. I didn't have that, man. I wish I could have had somebody that could have really just kept it real with me all the way 100, and then stood right there with me while I transitioned. It's that part, man, the changing part, man, was difficult. And it's like, we want youngsters and people to change on our timetable, and it just don't work like that.
Yeah. Do you think that people at times confuse emotions? Like they may feel like, I feel this way because I'm this, when in reality it may be something else. They just don't know what that emotion is.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, man, listen, that's huge. Absolutely. And that's the thing about it, is when I don't know what it is, I go to the most common emotion. And for us, especially when it comes to African Americans, it's anger. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not that, man, I'm not angry, man. Now I understand that, I was just embarrassed, I was humiliated, and I'm not angry, And so if I walk away from you, it's not the simple fact that I'm angry. It's the simple fact that, listen, you humiliated me and I don't want to act out to where it hurt me. So I walk away. But in the eyes of society, now I'm angry, because it's just common, man.
That's easy.
It's easy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, no, man, listen, but if I'm not aware of it, then what I do is I fall into the same trick bag. I fall into the same ways of society and say, well, whatever label you put on me, that's what I'm going to fall up under. And then I just act accordingly. And it's like, no, man, we need to start really paying attention to what's going on with me. You know, one thing I didn't know? And like I said, man, I'm 49. It just blew me away. We started a feelings class, man, just to help individuals. And there's no age limit on it.
Okay.
You know, so it's a feeling class. We come in, we just go over, hey, what feeling? You know, we gonna go over, we write down, everybody write down, hey, what feeling you wanna know? We put it in the jar, we pick one out, and we just go over it, get information on it, and we just go over it and talk about it and open it up to our lives, right? I had no idea. We just finished grief, and we spent like 2 weeks on grief, right? I didn't know that it was 5 stages to grief. Most people, when you hear them, man, they be like, man, I'm just grieving. And it's like, when you don't know how to grieve, grieving don't work for you. As a matter of fact, there's one stage in grief to where you feel like you losing your mind. See, a lot of people be like, man, I'm just losing my mind. I don't know what's going on. And it's the fact that that's the stage that you in from losing your son or from losing your mom or a loved one. And it's just, that's the stage. But if nobody can help me put a name to that, then I'm going to think I'm losing my mind and I need some medication, or I'm going to try to medicate it myself. Drugs, alcohol, whatever, you know. And so, man, for me to just find out some of these things, man, I don't want to just keep them to myself. I got to pass this on, because if we do, then we'll help create a healthier, younger generation.
Right.
Man, did you know, man, that there's 366 emotions? I had no idea myself. Most emotions, it's just about a handful of them that we can just, boom, happiness, sad, you know, sorrow, you know, anger, you know. See, there's some that fear that we can just identify, man. But, man, there's 366 of them. We're nowhere near tapping into those.
Right.
So, you know, the cliche that what they don't know won't hurt, man, what you don't know can very well kill
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
man, you said something powerful for me. I mean, I know we talking about how to help the kids, but, you know, as a parent, as an adult that deal with people, realizing that a person may be doing something and you automatically say, man, they doing it because they mad.
yep.
No, maybe it's they're embarrassed. Maybe it's they're sad. Maybe it's they're afraid. That really puts something on my mind that when I'm dealing with people now, anger is the easiest one to just try to identify.
Absolutely.
But that will help you deal with people when you have an open mind now that maybe what I did or what somebody did to them embarrassed them, and that's why they're acting out. Now you might have a little bit more compassion for them.
Absolutely.
If you think, oh, he acting crazy, I'm going to act crazy too. No, it's this person is feeling a certain way. So, hey, man, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that especially when you have kids.
Yes, sir.
You deal with your kids and like, well, he's doing this because of this.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's because of that.
Right.
And then as a parent, you will, you know, deal with your child accordingly if you really look at it from a broader lens, man. So I appreciate you. And this, again, is why we do this.
Yeah.
What you just said right there it makes sense. And I think, why ain't I never thought about it like that? You know, it's just, yeah, dude might be mad, or he might be this, or he might, but wonder if it's that.
Right.
And now I can really look at them a different way, or whoever it is that you're dealing with. And, you know, we talked about it off air. You know, a lot of times men, we don't know how to disagree.
Right.
Without it going somewhere else. It's like, you can have your own thought, I can have my own thought. That don't mean we weak. That don't mean we sad. It's just, that's just what it is.
Right.
So, you know, it's really, these are the conversations that, you know, we really enjoy having. And again, we appreciate you coming on because,
my pleasure.
man, you done said so much. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it. But you said one thing that really stood out was that you can have an impact, but you got to be close to that person.
Up close.
Yeah, you got to be up close. But you can. It was
influence.
You could have influence from afar,
from a distance.
From
yes,
man, come on, man. Man, come on, man. When you said that, I was like, I wish we had like a little bomb to go out with. Like we might have to add that to the editing part, Like when somebody say something real, like man, we gotta have a sound effect or something because I really appreciated that. So you mentioned a couple times you went to prison. You say you sold drugs and everything. How long did you go in?
I spent 7.5 years in prison.
Okay. So how would you say that affected your life? And the reason why I'm asking you this is because, unfortunately, a lot of this generation just feel like I'm going to do whatever because I'm just going to go to prison. Right. And they feel like this is what everybody does. It's going to be this. I'll just go in there, do my time, and come on out. But for somebody who's actually experienced that, it's not that at all.
No. It's absolutely not that.
Yeah.
Listen, prison is undefeated to me when it comes to doing what it's designed to do. It's designed to crush people mentally and emotionally.
Mm.
So I won't say that it's what I'm saying is if you think that you can just keep going to prison and you're going to be okay, that's not going to be the case.
Okay.
In the end, prison is going to win out because of how it's designed, right? So, man, me being in prison, man, I'm going to tell you, it transformed my life because when I went in with a mindset that, man, I don't want to be like this, man. I want to be different, man. I'm leaving my babies, As a young father, I really didn't have much to give them. I didn't know a lot. Mm-hmm. I knew basketball. I knew how to deal with women, So I didn't have a lot to give my kids, man. But I loved to spend time with them, though. So I would play with my kids all the time. They was with me all the time. So I didn't really have any substance to give them, though. And so going to prison, man, I had to look at it from a standpoint. I know they call it Department of Correction, but to me, it was really Department of Direction. Mm. Which direction you want to go? Do you want to keep going the direction that got you here, or do you want to turn the corner and go a different direction? Because just being honest, everything that's out here is in prison.
Okay.
That's why, it's not a corrective, it doesn't rehabilitate nobody because it's just designed it's punitive. Hey, look, this is the punishment. It's not set up to really rehabilitate you. And so I looked at it as like from a standpoint of, man, I want to get back to my kids. I want to be more to them than the guy that left, And so, man, that's when, man, my relationship with Christ went to a whole nother level. Because he done something for me that my mama couldn't do, my kids couldn't do, fame couldn't do, women couldn't do. He done something for me, man, that nobody else could do, man, because at that moment I was alone and I was just down, man. And what's so crazy, and it tickles me now because I've had many individuals now come up to me and be like, man, you messed up, man. You fumbled, man. You had the world in the palm of your hands, right? Now, we got on the same outfit because in prison, you don't wear your own clothes. You got the same outfit on. Now, you got the same outfit on I got on, but you telling me that I messed up. And I was like, man, how in the world? Didn't you do the same thing? Because we wouldn't be having this conversation if you hadn't messed up. But what they didn't know that internally, man, it was just cutting me, slicing me. Because I had come to the realization that, man, I had opportunities to do something. I just didn't know how to capitalize off of those opportunities. And for me to expose that to people, I would have to tell people, I have to come to the realization that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so I finally came to that realization, man, because I got tired of performing. I got tired of being what other people wanted me to be, man, because that led me there. I didn't know who I was. And I said, man, I'm done performing. And so I wanted to change. So I sought out change, man. And situation with my oldest child, man, I called home and I was able to talk to her one day. She's 12 at this time, and she asked me this question. Daddy, if you loved us, why did you do what you did?
Wow.
Didn't you know it was going to affect us? Now, to me, I'm looking at the phone because I'm like, man, her mama on the other end of this, telling her to ask this question. What 12-year-old going to ask that question? But she was at a point to where it's like, man, listen, a lot of things I've seen in life, and I need an answer. And I was at the point in my life where I wasn't trying to lie no more. This is what I want. I'm going to be truthful. And I told her, and I was like, babe, I didn't love you. Not that I didn't want to, I just didn't know how. I said, because, see, and I use this when I deal with youngsters too. I be like, man, hey, listen, especially when I'm in the juvenile system. I be like, man, give me $100 and I give you $200 back. Now, I know that they don't have any cash on them. So we just go through the whole formalities. Man, they like, man, I ain't got it. I'm like, man, check your pockets, your socks or whatever. And they, man, I ain't got it. I said, correct. See, you can't give me something that you don't have for yourself. So that's when I was able to be real with my daughter and say, I couldn't love you because I didn't even love me. And so, man, that just really put me on that trail of saying, man, in order for me to give something out, I got to get it first. And that's why, I was at a point of seeking God, like, man, listen, I need to know what a father is, what a man is, what a husband is. And I'm 49, I'm still learning in those areas what it is, man. I'm a student, man, and I want to be better no matter what, man. So prison for me, man, was like, my pastor, he said university. It was a university because I was there with a different mindset. I'm trying to go home, so I need to learn what I need to learn so I can get home. I knew many individuals that was from my hometown, so I let them know, listen, don't call me for nothing. If it ain't about Jesus Christ and going home, bro, don't listen. Leave me out of it because I'm trying to get home, So for me, man, prison was different because of how I looked at it and how I used it. But that's not the case for a lot of people, man. Because for my brother up under me, man, he wanted to be just like me, man. He did everything I did, man. He did. He even sold drugs, went to prison too. He played basketball, strong young fella, man. And he went to prison a couple times, but the last time he went in, we had a conversation. I'm like, listen, man, he got 5 kids. I said, look, little bro, man, it's time for you to come on home. I'm gonna go talk to a judge. And because outside now I got a little, relationship with the court system. And so he was like, okay, cool. He said, wait until January. Now, this was in November. December 6th, he passed away in prison. Yeah, man. One of the roughest times in my life. And so what I made it out of, he didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen many individuals not make it out. And so this is one thing that young people, it's like, listen, man, you're not thinking about what you're doing out here, that when you get in there, if somebody pass away like your grandma or your mama, you're not coming to that funeral. You're not going to be able to show your respects and say, your goodbyes. Or if somebody needs you out here, you're not going to be able to come and assist them. So these are conversations that, them real conversations you got to have with young people. And I said to myself, I don't ever want to be in this situation no more. So I made up in my mind, I said, I refuse to be in a situation to where I give a person power to make a decision for my life because I choose not to.
I know that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The right decision. I'm not putting myself in a position to give somebody else the authority and the power to make the right decision for my life because I choose not to. I said, nah, we ain't doing that no more. So, like I said, man, prison was, man, I'm telling you, it was, man, because I went in one way, man, of not knowing and not having, and I came out with some tools, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the next 10, 15, 20 years look like for you, and how do you take advantage of the second chance?
Man, whew. Man, I like that question, man. I like that question because, my long-term, my goals like that, man, they so big, man. And I love to dream big, man. And I know it sounds crazy to some people. But man, I went through coming home, man, from prison, my transition, man. And I'm so thankful, man. I came home with a great support system, man. I got married, man. My wife, who you met, man, we've been married. We just celebrated 22 years
Okay.
on July 3rd, man. And she married me in prison.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I came home to a nice support system, man. And I knew how to live and even serve God in prison, but coming out, it was different. Things changed. And so just learning how to deal with life out here, it wasn't as easy, because everybody, you come back to that point to where everybody ain't rooting for your success.
That's right.
Everybody ain't gonna be patting you on the back. You gonna have to learn how to pat yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. I come out, man, and I experienced, man, my grandson, had my first grandson. He has a heart issue. And the doctor said by the time he's 10, he gonna need a new heart. Well, I'm believing God, man. He gonna heal my grandson, man. Do something, amazing. Man, this kid, man, he didn't look sick. He didn't, man. And he was a lefty. Oh, his jumper was so sweet. Ooh. Man, I'm talking about form. Listen, man, I mean, this dude, man, he was, oh, man, he was just everything to me, man. And he passed away, man, at the age of 4, man. That was the most traumatic experience in my life, man. I ain't never felt so much pain, man. And this is why I know, man, God is so real, because when it came to that, man, the pain was so heavy, man, to where it was suffocating me, man. I couldn't. Everybody looked to me and my family. They looked to me as the one that was gonna say, "Hey, it's gonna be okay, man. Listen, we gonna pray. We gonna get through it. Hey, let's go. Let's move, man." I ain't had that for nobody. I couldn't even help my son, whose son that was, man. I was just so down. I was so angry with God, though. I was angry. And I didn't tell a lot of people because I didn't want a lot of people to scripture me to death.
Yeah, I understand.
I know the scripture. I ain't trying to hear that.
Yeah. Not right now. Not right now. I just
not right now. I ain't trying to hear that right now. I know God good, but right now I ain't trying to hear that, right? And so I didn't want nobody trying to protect him and saying, well, you ain't supposed to be angry with God. And so I'm angry because I didn't understand how my grandson not being here, how this was going to work out, how this was going to play out. Because if you never seen my grandson, he had open heart surgery before he was 1. But if you never seen the 6-inch incision, or I never told you, by looking at him, you would not know he was sick, because he didn't look like what he was going through. And so and the reason why that was, he didn't look sick, was because his support system, his mama, his daddy, his grandparents, we never magnified his condition. We always magnified who he was. I was saying, if you can create an environment to where it can magnify who young people are and not their condition, they can outlive it. So this is where Money Ministries was birthed, man. That ministry, just walking alongside young people, man, wherever they are, man. I don't care, man. But the key is we want to remove whatever obstacle, because in life, we already know that whatever the obstacle that's in front of us, that becomes our filter. So we relate to people based off of this filter, whether it's business or whatever. If you got this obstacle in your way, then you're limited in how you relate, and you're limited in what you can see, your vision. And so what we want to do is, okay, we get it. Your mom's on drugs, your dad is in prison. Let's move that obstacle out the way so you can see a greater perspective of your life. We want you to see a bigger picture of you. You know what I'm saying? So we going to come in. We're not trying to take the place of, but we're going to let you know we remove excuses. So you don't have to succumb to your conditions. You can outlive them. So That's what we do. So with Money Ministries, man, I see group homes, um, group homes that are based on um, teaching kids trades, man, skilled trades, man. I'm pushing skilled trades, man, because I love college, and some are going to go to college, but just preparing them for that next level in life and not preparing them to walk into debt, but to say, hey, listen, you don't have to go to college, but you can still be productive in life. Hey, what about this trade? Because when it comes to young people, I want to capitalize off of this mindset. Man, I got to do what I got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So with that mindset, I want to capitalize. Hey, look, we got this plumbing program. Man, I don't want to be well, it ain't about what you want right now. Let's do what you got to do, so then you can get to the point of doing what you want to do.
That's right.
Yeah, so
That's right.
I want to capitalize off of that, man. So I just want to create opportunities, man, for young people, not only in Anderson, but in Madison County, and just, man, I'm thinking just globally, man,
Yeah.
just all around, because we need it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone is going through any of the things you talked about and they need someone to talk to and they want to reach you, how do they reach you?
Hey, you can reach us through a website that we still building. It's moneyministries.com.
Okay.
You can contact us there at moneyministries.com, or you can even reach me on my phone number, 765-620-0574. I know for a lot of people, they don't do that, but I do that. I give my number out, because it's that serious for me, when it come to youngsters, because I got grandkids. And what I refuse to do is, if I buy my grandson some Jordans and you got little Jack 2 houses down and they ain't got no water, and he see my grandson coming outside with these J's on, but he got to go to school and he ain't had no water, what you think gonna happen? There ain't gonna be no healthy conversation going on. And so next thing you know, he gonna be wanting to go upside my grandson's head. So what I wanna do is, no, Jack, you gonna get some J's too. Even though your water ain't on. But let's try to work and see if we can get your water on, to where now he don't look at my grandson as competition. He look at my grandson as family. So, man, just really building that, creating a huge family, man, of young people, man, to where they start to understand how to use each other to get to the next level.
Absolutely. Brother, again, we appreciate you. And so before we let you get out of here, this is what we always ask the person that we're interviewing, because no one does anything by themselves. So who would you like to give flowers to and say, thank you for helping me get to where I'm at right now
Oh,
today?
man, listen. We got another episode?
Yeah.
Hey, man, listen, because I'm telling you, it's many, man. First and foremost, man, and I know a lot of people say this, man, but when I say it, man, listen, man, I'm sold out to Jesus Christ.
Okay.
And so, man, God, listen to me, man. He my everything. He mean more to me than anybody. And then, man, my wife, man, listen, man, I thank God for my wife, man. She taught me a lot, even transitioning back into society, man. And she just done went through a lot, man. A lot that she didn't sign up for. And so, man, I'm just so grateful and so thankful for her, man. My family, man, absolutely, man. My family, my grandmother just passed away. She passed away at 96 years old. Had not it been for her, man, I wouldn't be where I am today when it comes to knowing where to turn, and that was to turn to Christ, right? Man, so my kids, man, thank God for them, man. My kids ain't perfect, but I thank God for them, man, because they progressing, you know. And then my community, man, I'm gonna tell you, man, all the old schools, man, that really played a part. I know I got Mr. Basketball. They gave me the jersey, man, but it's a lot of names that's connected to that. Like me and MA was talking about, even, in different cities, in Indy, in Muncie, Marion, Richmond. A lot of people played a part in that, man. And so I just really got to give flowers to them old schools, man, that really, they didn't even know how much I really take how they competed against me, how I use that in my everyday life now when it comes to life and life is throwing stuff at me. How do I strategically deal with what's coming at me, man? And so, man, them old schools, man, they played a huge part in my life, man. So, man, I thank and praise God, man, for my community, man. I do, man. My grandkids, man. And I'm just thankful, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of individuals, man, that I thank, man, and I don't take that lightly, man.
Yeah.
I don't take that lightly, man. But big shout out to my wife, man. You know, that's my chip. That's what I call a chip. But it means something, you know. Now, you know, last year we celebrated our anniversary, man, and I said, who waits until they're almost 50 to get tattoos, man? Listen, man, this hurt us so bad they almost stopped at just to see. You hear me? For real. And we almost didn't carry it on out. But CHIP stands for my comfort and happiness in person. Yeah, man. So, you know, for 22 years, I've been calling my wife Chip, man. That's who she is, man. I'm just so thankful for her, man.
It's time, but bro, you dropped so many. Like, I really got to go back and look at it. Because in my fake life, I think I'm a philosopher. I really think I'm a philosopher, man. It helps me in my everyday life deal with people.
Come on, man. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you deal with people, you got to deal with everybody different.
That's right.
And so I try to, when I'm talking to every person, my wife would tell you, I'm trying to understand, why is this person saying this? You know, I hear what he's saying, but why is he saying it? So then my comeback is going to be according to why I think that person is saying something. So what you hit me with was there's way more senses of emotions as to why somebody might be saying something.
Right.
So I got to really be locked into that when I'm dealing with business.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? When I'm dealing with my family.
Yep.
You know, you said you at 20, how many years? 22?
Yeah.
Me and my wife just did 24 June the 10th.
Oh, man, praise
So we try to get 25, you know, 25 ain't guaranteed.
Yeah.
So now when I'm dealing with her, it's like, okay, you know, so now I'm always say, well, Kojack told me.
Hey, hold on now.
Hey, Kojack told me.
Hold on.
Hey, man. So maybe you ain't tripping.
I'll have it before you do that. So I ain't taking credit for everything.
Man, but no, man, that's just this. No, that just
hey,
really.
That's right.
Yeah, nah, man, that really put something on my mind, though, what you said, though, brother, man, for real, about really trying to figure out the emotional part of why somebody's coming at you a certain way.
Man.
That's probably one of the favorite things that I heard on top of, you know, the impact.
And that's one of the most important things that when I'm dealing with people, I use.
Yeah.
That's my mindset when I'm going into, I don't preconceive how somebody feel, no, none of that. So some of the questions that I'm asking, it's not boxing them in, because especially when you're dealing with people and they've dealt with a whole lot of people, they'll go ahead and give you, you know, the common response. Dealing with the common, what you think. Oh, man, so you upset? You mad? Well, I guess I'm mad. If you say I'm mad, I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where that is. And it's like, nah, that's not what I want. Go ahead. I wanna give you a question to where it opens up the door for you to be honest about how you really feel.
And you know, when you said something about the emotions, it's like if your kid runs and falls down and skins up his knee, everybody laughs and they start crying. As man, stop crying, man. He mad because he's hurt. No, he's not mad because he's hurt.
Come on,
he's
man.
embarrassed because everybody's laughing. He feels pain. His legs bleeding. But as a man, we always stop that crying. They don't need to cry.
Come on.
And it's like, so that's one thing that I've always tried to do with my kids is allow them to be emotional and not make them feel like they're less than because they're emotional.
That's right.
Because that's what they do to us as men.
Absolutely.
Man, you cry. My dad had a saying. He would say, "You acting like a Dee baby." I don't know what that meant, but I didn't want to be a Dee baby.
Right.
So I would wait to cry when I was under my blankets.
Come on.
But I tell my kids, hey man, if you gotta cry, go and cry.
Man.
Man, we might cry together. Let's go and cry. Let's
That's
get it out the
right.
way. We had a conversation today. He was upset about something. And I said, in life, things are going to happen.
That's
And if you
right.
don't understand it, it's okay not to understand.
That's right.
But don't let it carry over to where it influences you to do something to make the situation worse.
Oh, man.
We just had this conversation
You got
today.
me. Look, when I get excited, bro, I'm telling you, I be ready to throw stuff, man. You got me ready to throw the mic and
Man, we just had this, yeah.
Oh, my God.
We just
bro,
had this
listen,
conversation
man,
today, brother.
That right there, that's it. Exactly what you said. If he doesn't get to the point to where he's able to process that, he will do something in turn to hurt himself or make it worse.
Yeah.
We a compound and we'll throw stuff on top of absolutely to where we drown out how we really feel. So we go through life like emotionless.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd be like, man, how in the world would you be able to do something like that? And it's like, bro, listen, I've shut off that part of my life for so long to where I don't know how to feel certain emotions. And you really handicap us when we don't know how to feel. But, that's just the society we live in. And like you said, hey, look, stop. Ain't no crying, ain't no doing none of that. Even when I deal with youngsters, like when I was training my grandson, them, second grade, and I'm pushing them, and I tell them out the gate, listen, it's going to be days you're going to cry. It's going to be days you're going to be hurt. And I get it, and it's okay. But keep going. So when they sitting on that wall and they legs burning, I said, holler, do whatever you need to do, but just complete what I'm asking you to complete. So cry along with that. Do that. You can be upset. That's fine. Learn how to produce even when you feel in a certain way to where you don't allow how you feel to restrict you from doing what you're supposed to do.
Man, I'm telling you, because it's like anger is the only emotion as men that we accept for our kids. Oh, he mad? Yeah, get. No, man, let that dude be sad. Let him be, because it's natural.
Man.
And we're not helping them to, like you said, cope with it.
Because a lot of times we don't know ourselves.
That's exactly
right.
Exactly
We're
what
not
it is.
aware of them.
And me and my wife, we talk about just breaking the cycle a lot, and a lot of different things. Like when we're dealing with our kids with credit and financial literacy and just how you go back and forth with turmoil.
Yes.
But I think this is one that, this emotional part of it is one that really lacks, because like you said, if we ain't really been taught ourselves. But then that's one thing that I can say about my father. He was an emotional man.
Okay.
So I saw that in growing up in my home, that it was okay to express your emotions.
Yeah.
But as he was raising me, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But then there was those moments to where he would also hold me. It's going to be okay. And let me get that out of me. But then it's like, okay, that's enough. You got it out. Now let's figure it out.
Right.
So I can say that has really helped me with my kids, and even with just people that I deal with. I try to always, take into consideration that you're a human being. Person's imperfect. He's gonna react. Even if you're mad at me, you go off talking crazy. I feel like, hey man, you should be able to say what you want to say.
Right.
This how you're processing.
Yeah, how you
feel, and how you.
right.
I don't know how to write this. That's
Right.
like I do something. You say, hey man, you hurt my feelings. No, I didn't. How can I tell you? How can I
But
tell
that's
you?
what we do, though.
That's what we. No, I didn't. I didn't
Right.
hurt your feelings. My feelings are destroyed. You absolutely hurt my feelings. I didn't do that at all. And it's like,
man, you being soft, man. You acting like a little.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, what you did made me feel this way. But as humans, especially as men,
It's not
we
popular.
don't allow people to be that way.
That's right.
And that's why guys is killing one another.
That's right.
That's why they're fighting. That's why they're so angry all the time.
Right.
Is because we're trying to pin up that natural emotion that a person's going to have. Man. So that's what I'm saying, man. Today I think
you need to do a class on it, brother.
Man,
because you just listen, bro. You, man, for real, man.
And that's why I appreciate this.
Yeah.
This is an outlet for us to really come and have these conversations, because most dudes ain't calling their homeboys up and say, hey, man, I'm emotional right now. Can I talk to you? He probably going to hang up.
Man.
Like, man, you can't talk to me like this. We gonna be
Come
crying
on,
together.
man.
But it's like, why can't, man, hey, man.
Man, I felt less than, man.
Man,
My
yeah.
job today, man, they really.
Man, they talk to me crazy
Man.
at work today. Man, you better go in there, go off and do this and do. No, don't tell nobody to do. Don't send them on no dumb
So the
mission.
question that we always ask when you tell us a story is, okay, how did that make you feel? Because, see, I want to tell you the story, but then when I ask, okay, well, how did that make you feel? And it's like, well, man, I ain't even take time to think about that. I just know the story. And it's like, no, listen, you have to start taking time to see how you felt, how you felt in the midst of it. Because if you don't, you'll repeat it. When, a guy always used, man, when you touch fire and how it felt, you remember that to where you don't touch it no more. Why? Because of how it felt.
That's right.
So I'm not about to repeat this because I know how that felt.
Yeah.
So when you know how something feel, man, I don't want to feel like, feel abandoned. I don't want to feel like, I don't want to be consumed with fear, man. I don't want to be, feel anxiety, anxious about, man, my future or whatnot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make certain decisions for my life to where I don't feel like that no more. I'm not going to feel less than, so I'm going to make some decisions for my life to where somebody else don't have to.
That's right.
To where now, because that prison life, I don't like that. I don't like how that made me feel, so I'm going to do some things to where I don't repeat that. So it's like, but if you don't become aware of how you feel in the situation, you repeat them.
Hey, man, we thankful for you. We thankful for your wife, M.A. And we just really appreciate the fact that you came here today, because I think that when people, I know that when people watch this, because when you hear Kojack Fuller, every time I've heard your name, he was cold on the court, right?
Right.
When they watch this, they're going to realize that there's a man behind that person.
Come on, brother.
And that's what we appreciate you coming here today to tell your story, because playing basketball is one thing, that's entertainment.
That's right.
But what the jewels you dropped today, somebody's going to get better from it.
Man.
And so that's what we appreciate, my brother. So thank you. And if you are someone who is struggling with anything that we talked about today, if you need any help today, Kojack has given his information and has welcomed you to reach out to him at any time.
And also my email is moneyministries18@gmail.com.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay. So we appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
for watching this next episode of Candid Dialogue. We'll see you on the next one.